Hello friends. Imagine blending a storm cloud with a philosopher, and giving them the soul of a gentle artist. That's what you get when you meet someone born under the zodiac sign Aquarius, in the year of the goat, also known as the sheep or ram in Chinese astrology. These people are not just rare, they're mystifying, magnetic, and sometimes maddeningly contradictory. But what makes them tick? Why do they love the way they love, think the way they think, and sometimes disappear right when you think you're closest to them? Let's dive deep. This isn't just a horoscope, it's a psychological journey. Love, marriage, sex, business, ambition, friendships, dark corners, they're all here. Love, the untamed idealist. For Aquarius goats, love is never something they stumble into, it's something they elevate into. It's not a crush, it's a calling. They don't date to date. They don't fall in love. They float into it, as if love were a metaphysical state they've been searching for all their lives. It starts in the intellect and then seeps into the soul. Words matter. Conversations are sacred. They're not chasing chemistry. They're chasing a symphony of thought, energy, and meaning. To them, a partner isn't just a person. They're a mirror, a muse, a co-dreamer. They need to be mentally fascinated before they can even begin to open their heart. And yet, there's a kind of heartbreak built into the way they love. Why? Because their love is idealistic, sometimes to a fault. They often fall in love with the idea of someone, how that person could be, might be, or how they fit into the bigger story in the Aquarius goat's mind. They see potential like a sculptor sees a statue inside a block of marble. But when that person turns out to be just human, flawed, and inconsistent, it can shatter the illusion. It's not always the partner's fault, it's the internal gap between fantasy and reality that wounds them the most. Their expectations are sky high because they believe in the extraordinary. When love becomes ordinary, it feels like something sacred has died. Emotionally, they walk a tightrope. The goat's heart is soft, nurturing, and profoundly devoted. It longs for quiet, poetic intimacy. The Aquarius mind, however, is an explorer. It needs freedom, mental fireworks, and something new to keep the gears turning. This combination creates a dynamic lover who is both tender and distant, attentive and elusive. They'll remember the smallest detail about your childhood, but then go emotionally AWOL for days. They're not unreliable, they're just overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of their own emotions and the pressure of sustaining a love that feels worthy of their vision. Romantic gestures? Oh, they've got them. Aquarius goats will write you a surreal love letter at 3 a.m., cook you an elaborate meal inspired by a dream they had, or plan a spontaneous road trip to a stargazing site just because you once mentioned you liked constellations. But just when you think the relationship is deepening, they may pull back. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much, and it frightens them. Vulnerability feels like walking into a burning building with no exit plan. They need to retreat, reflect, and recompose themselves to protect their inner world. If you're in love with an Aquarius goat, here's your manual. Stay interesting. Stay honest. Stay free. They need space to think and feel at their own pace. If you try to possess or confine them, they will drift, emotionally first, then physically. But if you match their curiosity, respect their contradictions, and meet them on the battlefield of ideas and dreams, you'll earn a kind of loyalty that defies time. They don't do shallow, they don't do predictable, but if they choose you, really choose you, it means they see something in you they can't find anywhere else. And that's a kind of love most people only dream of. Marriage, a quirky partnership or a beautiful struggle. Marrying an Aquarius goat is like entering a sacred, surrealist theater performance that never quite ends, and you're both the audience and the co-writer. This isn't a white picket fence and matching bathrobes kind of union. It's more like an ever-evolving installation piece, messy, brilliant, deeply personal, and often misunderstood by others. Structure suffocates them. Predictability bores them. What they long for in marriage is not stability in the traditional sense, but a deep, flexible connection that bends with time rather than snapping under pressure. For them, marriage is not a destination, it's an open-ended collaboration between two evolving souls. One of the most defining features of an Aquarius goat in marriage is their resistance to roles. Don't expect them to follow the rulebook. They're not interested in playing husband or wife in the stereotypical sense. They reject labels that come with fixed expectations. They want a partner, not a co-manager of household logistics. They're drawn to people who challenge tradition, who don't blink when they suggest celebrating anniversaries in silence on a mountain or raising kids with entirely invented rituals. Time doesn't matter to them. Whether it takes 5 months or 5 years to marry is irrelevant, as long as it feels true. They live by emotional authenticity, not societal checklists. But with that freedom comes fierce devotion. Aquarius goats don't fall into marriage casually. If they say yes to a lifelong bond, it means they've gone through an intense internal process. Their commitment, once given, is soulful and unwavering. They'll design a life with you that no one else would dare imagine. They'll fill your days with eccentric traditions, philosophical pillow talk, and spontaneous bursts of affection that feel like scenes from an art house romance. They'll support your dreams with their whole being, and invite you into theirs. Loyalty, for them, isn't about routine, it's about shared meaning. As long as you keep growing together, their heart stays anchored. However, marriage to them isn't always smooth. Their emotional terrain is complex. The goat side is tender, craving closeness, reassurance, and soft-spoken love. The Aquarius side, detached, cerebral, often floating in mental space. When life gets stressful, they may retreat, not physically, but emotionally. You may find yourself talking to someone who's there in body but lost in thought. This withdrawal isn't spiteful, it's a self-defense mechanism. They need time to process, to realign with their inner rhythm. But if they feel trapped, or if their sense of independence is threatened, that distance can harden. Resentment may quietly grow under the surface, masked by politeness and "I'm fine" smiles. Their idea of a successful marriage is one that prioritizes friendship above all else. For them, romantic intimacy without deep camaraderie feels empty. They want a spouse who's also a best friend, a fellow misfit, a co-dreamer who doesn't flinch at midnight existential conversations or sudden career pivots. If marriage becomes a routine of bills, obligations, and shallow exchanges, they don't necessarily leave, they just disappear inside themselves. They go through the motions while their spirit wanders elsewhere. To keep them fully present, the marriage must feel alive, curious, and open-ended. They thrive in partnerships that breathe, shift, and surprise. So is it a quirky partnership or a beautiful struggle? The truth is, it's both. You don't marry an Aquarius goat for simplicity. You marry them because you crave depth, adventure, and a love that never sits still. They will frustrate you with their unpredictability, challenge you with their ideals, and sometimes drive you crazy with their emotional unavailability. But they will also teach you how to love beyond rules, how to dream beyond reality, and how to build a marriage that isn't about fitting in, but about becoming more. If you're willing to grow with them rather than contain them, what you create together can be nothing short of extraordinary. Sex. Mind first, then body. For the Aquarius goat, sex is never just physical, it's metaphysical. To them, seduction doesn't start with a glance across the room or a lingering touch. It starts with a sentence. A question, a strange insight that makes their mind spark. If you want to get them into bed, you have to get into their thoughts first. A meaningful exchange, a clever joke, a deep conversation about human nature, that's their kind of foreplay. They need to feel like they're connecting to something beyond flesh, like your souls are writing a shared theory of desire in real time. The body comes later. First, the mind must be ignited. When it is, everything changes. Once they're mentally stimulated, their physical desire comes alive fast and hard, but not in a straightforward way. There's an almost mystical quality to their eroticism. They don't follow scripts, they invent them. One night, they might create a whole sensory ritual with candles, poetry, and slow jazz. The next, it's laughter, spontaneity, and stargazing before kissing you like it's the last sunset on Earth. They view sex as an expression of art, emotion, and thought all woven together. It's rarely routine, because they themselves are rarely the same twice. Being their lover means stepping into a shifting world of imagination and emotion every time. They are naturally experimental, but not for the sake of shock. Their curiosity is sincere. They're not just asking, what feels good, but, what does this mean? What happens to our connection if we try this? They crave novelty, not because they're restless, but because they believe each encounter has the potential to reveal something new about the relationship and themselves. Their Aquarius side is open to ideas that might seem unconventional, while the goat brings in a craving for beauty and subtlety. The result? Sex that feels like it was choreographed in a dream and remembered in a poem. But don't confuse their inventiveness with emotional detachment. Yes, they have an intellectual gateway to sex, but once that door is open, they are in it, fully, deeply, often with an almost spiritual vulnerability. The goat's sensitivity runs deep beneath Aquarius's more aloof persona. When the two align, they can make love in a way that feels not only emotional but cosmic. They remember what makes you melt, what words unravel you, what moment brought you to tears last week, and they hold all that inside every caress. For them, sex is a sacred exchange, a fusion of energies that can't be rushed or faked. This is why casual sex rarely works for them. Even if they experiment with it, the emptiness afterward hits hard. They need to feel seen in order to feel turned on. If the mental and emotional connection isn't present, or if it disappears over time, their desire quietly disappears with it. They might still go through the motions out of politeness, loyalty, or curiosity, but the spark will be gone. And when sex becomes empty of meaning, they retreat. Not in anger, but in quiet sorrow. Because for an Aquarius goat, sex isn't a pastime. It's a language, and if you stop speaking their dialect of depth, magic, and connection, they won't shout, they'll simply go silent. Friendship, unusual bonds, lifelong loyalty. Friendship with an Aquarius goat is never standard. It's a living, breathing artwork in motion. They don't show up in your life just to hang out or keep you company. They show up to connect, to exchange energy, to inspire and be inspired. When they care about you, they don't bring flowers, they bring meaning. That weird little succulent they picked up during a solo desert road trip? It reminded them of a conversation you had months ago. That dog-eared copy of a book they insist you read? It's because they felt something shift in their own heart and thought, you need to feel this too. Friendship with them feels like you're both characters in a book that's still being written, strange, deep, and unforgettable. They absolutely cannot do surface-level friendships. Small talk exhausts them. Shallow social rituals feel like wearing shoes 2 sizes too small. What they crave is substance, the kind of interaction that makes their neurons light up and their heart soften. One moment they'll ask you about your childhood trauma, the next they'll be explaining their theory on interdimensional consciousness. A conversation with them isn't linear, it's a constellation. And if you can't or won't go there with them, they'll drift. Not out of cruelty, but because their soul literally needs the oxygen of authenticity. Their ideal friendships feel like ongoing philosophical salons disguised as coffee chats. They're magnets for people who don't quite fit anywhere else. The offbeat creatives, the lone wolves, the seekers, the beautifully strange. People with curiosity in their eyes and stories stitched into their silence. Aquarius goats make these people feel seen, because they themselves know what it feels like to be misunderstood. They gravitate toward others who are open-minded, emotionally self-sufficient and unafraid of nonlinear dynamics. At the same time, they're quietly repelled by those who drain their energy. Needy people, dramatic chaos lovers, and emotional barnacles? No, thank you. If you come to them with emotional weight, it better be balanced by emotional growth, otherwise they vanish like smoke. One of the strangest and most beautiful aspects of their friendship style is the temporal elasticity of their love. They can disappear for weeks or months, traveling, introspecting, writing novels in their head, but when they return, it's like no time passed at all. They don't require constant contact to maintain connection. Their friendship isn't measured in texts sent or parties attended, it's measured in moments of realness. Loyalty for them is quiet and unshakable. You may not hear from them often, but you'll find your name written into their memory in ways that surprise you. They remember your favorite song, the exact words you used when your heart broke, what you wanted to be when you were 10. Their loyalty may be invisible, but it runs deep. But, fair warning, they're terrible with logistics. Don't expect punctuality. Don't expect calendar invites. Don't expect them to reply to a "What time are we meeting?" text within the same day. They live on their own internal rhythm, which often exists in an alternate time zone entirely. And birthdays? They may miss the day completely, but a week later you'll receive a long, soulful letter that makes you cry and laugh in the same breath. You'll forgive them immediately, because with them, the timing may be off, but the intention is always right. Where they truly shine is during crisis. When your world falls apart, when the relationship ends, the job collapses, the dream crumbles, they won't show up with cliches or pity. They'll show up with insight, with kindness, with a plan you hadn't thought of and a question that unlocks a door inside you. They'll help you rebuild, not just your life, but your belief in yourself. And they won't ask for anything in return, because that's just what they do. Friendship, for them, isn't a transaction, it's a quiet vow made between souls who recognize each other in the fog. If you were lucky enough to be their friend, you'll know what it means to be truly loved without conditions or expiration dates. Business career, the creative disruptor. Put an Aquarius goat in a gray cubicle under fluorescent lights with a middle manager breathing down their neck, and you won't just see boredom, you'll witness existential collapse. They are the absolute antithesis of the plug-and-play employee. They crave stimulation, autonomy, and above all, meaning. Routine jobs that focus on output over impact make them feel like machines, and nothing kills their spirit faster than being asked to just follow the process. They don't want to follow processes, they want to invent them. Their work must feel like an extension of their identity. If it doesn't, they'll quietly disengage and start mentally drafting their escape plan before the onboarding is even finished. These individuals aren't your typical career climbers. They don't dream of corner offices or fancy titles unless those things serve a deeper purpose. They are innovators, not conformists. While they may not always be natural-born leaders in the conventional sense, they are not obsessed with control or power. They are almost always the originators of powerful ideas. Their minds naturally think 3 steps ahead of the industry curve. They can take a problem no one's figured out and turn it on its head, creating a solution that feels almost obvious in hindsight. Their gift lies in their ability to blend creative intuition with analytical vision. They see connections others miss. They have a distinct career rhythm: burst, build, disappear, evolve. One moment they're launching a startup based on an idea they had in the shower. The next they're off the radar for 6 months, recalibrating, researching, dreaming. They often leave perfectly good jobs to pursue something uncertain but thrilling. They'll abandon security if they feel the soul is missing. And while people around them might panic at their sudden changes, for the Aquarius goat, this isn't instability, it's necessary evolution. They don't fear failure, they fear stagnation. Their courage to pivot comes from an inner compass that's guided more by purpose than by paycheck. That's why you'll often find them in unconventional or impact-driven careers. Think creative industries with a mission: sustainable fashion, documentary filmmaking, nonprofit innovation, experimental tech, indie publishing, alternative education, consciousness coaching. The more niche and visionary, the better. They're drawn to careers where they can make people feel something, change minds, or push boundaries. If their work doesn't have a ripple effect on the world, or at least their community, they lose interest fast. They aren't motivated by external validation or wealth alone. Success, for them, is waking up knowing they're contributing to something that truly matters. But even brilliance has its blind spots. Their goat side brings emotional depth, sensitivity, and a poetic soul, but also bouts of self-doubt, procrastination, and overwhelm. Their mind is so full of ideas it can paralyze them. They may launch 5 projects and struggle to finish one. They may get caught in a cycle of over-perfectionism or fear that their work won't match the vision in their head. This is where external structure becomes essential. Whether it's a disciplined collaborator, a business coach, or even a deadline they publicly commit to, Aquarius goats need containers to bring their genius into the tangible world. Otherwise, their brilliance risks staying locked in the realm of what could have been. But when everything aligns, when they find a mission they care about, a medium they love, and a little help keeping the train on the tracks, they don't just do well. They transform industries. They bring fresh air to stale systems. They humanize technology. They revolutionize ideas. They disrupt for a purpose, not just for chaos. And they do it with style, intellect, and a surprising sense of humility. The Aquarius goat doesn't shout about their impact. They let the work speak for itself. And when it speaks, the world listens. Dark sides, the storm behind the smile. At first glance, the Aquarius goat seems like a whimsical force of nature, clever, compassionate, full of charm and mystique. They radiate a sense of originality that makes people gravitate toward them. They're the ones telling dreamy stories at dinner parties, offering unexpected wisdom, and lighting up conversations with their strange and wonderful mind. But beneath that luminous exterior, a quiet storm often brews. Their inner world is complex, intense, and fragile in ways most people never see. Their darkness doesn't explode, it simmers. It lurks behind the smile, behind the insight, behind the poetry. And it can be just as powerful as their brightest gifts. This darkness often begins with a deep sense of disconnection. The Aquarius goat is a paradoxical creature, emotionally sensitive thanks to the goat, and intellectually detached due to Aquarius. When they face emotional pain, this combination becomes volatile. The goat wants to feel everything deeply, to heal through closeness. But Aquarius instinctively retreats into thought, abstraction, and isolation. The result? Inner fragmentation. They often experience a private tug-of-war between the need for connection and the need for emotional distance. They can be surrounded by people and still feel utterly alone, struggling with the haunting belief that no one can truly understand what's going on inside them. Their insecurities run deeper than most realize. The goat brings an emotional vulnerability that, when not nurtured, turns inward. They often doubt their own worth, wondering if their uniqueness is lovable or just weird. They become overly sensitive to criticism, reading into silences, doubting compliments, and imagining rejections where none exist. And yet, instead of voicing their fears, they mask them with detachment. The Aquarius side kicks in as a defense mechanism, using logic or distraction to avoid emotional discomfort. They may throw themselves into a new project, a new idea, a new identity, anything to avoid sitting still with the ache inside. When hurt, the Aquarius goat doesn't always lash out. More often, they shut down. Silence becomes armor. They may pull away from people they love, not to punish them, but to protect themselves. Ironically, this often leads to the very thing they fear most: emotional abandonment. They may push others away while secretly hoping someone will chase after them. But because they rarely ask for help directly, friends and partners may not realize how deeply they're hurting. And when they feel unseen or unappreciated, they can spiral into emotional implosion, internalizing everything, blaming themselves, questioning their place in the world. One of the most painful tendencies they battle is self-sabotage. When things are going well, when love is steady, work is fulfilling, friendships are thriving, they may suddenly feel a wave of discomfort. The goat whispers, "This is too good." The Aquarius adds, "It probably won't last." That mix can drive them to unconsciously sabotage their own happiness. They might pick a fight out of nowhere, ghost someone they adore, quit a job that's finally working. Why? Because vulnerability terrifies them. Joy feels unsafe. If they grew up without emotional consistency, this pattern becomes even more ingrained. They don't know how to trust peace. Chaos feels more familiar. Idealism is another shadow in disguise. The same visionary mindset that makes them brilliant can also make them blind. They fall so in love with what could be that they reject what is. Their relationships suffer when they expect partners to live up to an abstract ideal. Their careers stall when they chase perfection instead of progress. They'll abandon projects because they no longer feel pure, or walk away from someone who's deeply good to them because they don't match the dream. Instead of working with the world, they try to reshape it, and when reality pushes back, they crumble. So much potential, half-lived, because they couldn't bring it into form. And then, there's their greatest temptation, escapism. Emotional escapism, where they avoid difficult conversations and let wounds fester. Spiritual escapism, where they bypass healing by focusing on enlightenment and ideas instead of doing the emotional work. Creative escapism, where they dream up endless worlds without ever finishing one. This desire to float above the mess of being human is their refuge, but also their prison. It offers short-term comfort and long-term stagnation. Growth only comes when they stay grounded. But grounding can feel like gravity, and for someone so used to flying, it's terrifying. Yet, understanding these shadows isn't about judgment. It's about compassion. The Aquarius goat isn't broken, they're just deep. And like any deep soul, they carry both light and dark in equal measure. Their challenge is to integrate both. To stop fleeing from pain and instead meet it with curiosity. To realize that they don't have to choose between emotion and thought, chaos and order, freedom and connection. They can have both, but it starts with acknowledging the storm inside, and learning how to dance in the rain instead of always trying to outrun it. Life purpose, the visionary artist of humanity. The life path of an Aquarius goat is not a straight line, it's a spiral. It loops through ideas, emotions, dreams, and purpose, again and again, each time climbing higher. They weren't born to follow a template, they were born to rewrite it. Their existence isn't meant to conform, it's meant to inspire. But not in the loud, performative, influencer on a podium way. Their magic is quieter, more poetic. It's in how they move through the world with a deep curiosity, how they listen more than they speak, and how they turn everyday moments into sacred experiences. Their life purpose is to live as a walking reminder that the world is still capable of beauty, empathy, and transformation. The true gift of the Aquarius goat is their ability to show that vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a form of brilliance. Where others push, they invite. Where others dominate, they reflect. They lead not by command, but by example. Whether they're raising children, building a project, or just talking with a stranger at a coffee shop, their energy carries a sense of quiet revolution. They don't need to go viral to be influential. Their presence alone can shift someone's trajectory. They remind people that intellect can be kind, that softness can be powerful, and that creativity isn't just a career, it's a language of the soul. At their core, Aquarius goats are bridges. Their life's calling is to connect the disconnected, people, ideas, art forms, generations, belief systems. They have a genius for synthesis. They can sit with a Buddhist monk in the morning and brainstorm with a tech entrepreneur at night, and somehow find a common thread between the two. They see patterns where others see chaos. This isn't just intelligence, it's vision. But even more importantly, they bring heart to that vision. Their goat nature keeps them rooted in compassion. It's not just about changing the world, it's about healing it, humanizing it, making it feel more like home for those who've never quite fit in. For the Aquarius goat to fulfill their purpose, their inner world must align with their outer actions. This is their great challenge and their great potential. The goat brings emotional sensitivity, intuition, and the desire to create beauty. The Aquarius brings radical thought, futuristic ideas, and unshakable independence. When these two parts are out of sync, they suffer, conflicted, confused, fragmented. But when they learn to trust both voices equally, they become unstoppable. The goat teaches Aquarius how to feel. Aquarius teaches the goat how to think without fear. Together, they form a person capable of reshaping culture without losing their soul. The real magic happens when they stop just dreaming and start doing. Aquarius goats are filled with big ideas, but they often hesitate to act, unsure if reality can hold their vision. But the moment they take that risk, write the first page, launch the community project, speak their truth, they light up. They come alive. Their creations carry an emotional resonance that cuts through noise and pretense. Whether it's through writing, teaching, inventing, healing, or creating art, they're here to build meaning in a world that often feels hollow. They're here to remind others not just to think bigger, but to feel deeper. This is why their life, when truly lived, becomes a masterpiece. They don't just build careers or accumulate experiences, they construct living legacies. They're the quiet catalysts behind social movements. The anonymous donors funding creative education in underserved areas. The muralist painting sorrow and hope into forgotten alleyways. The author who writes stories that awaken the wounded parts of a reader's soul. The technologist designing tools that prioritize humanity over profit. Their impact may not always be immediately visible, but it's lasting. They plant seeds in people's hearts that bloom years later. Their purpose, ultimately, is not about arriving, it's about evolving. Every experience, every heartbreak, every project, every silence is a brush stroke on the canvas of their life. They are the visionary artists of humanity, using emotion and intellect to create blueprints for a better future. And their lives, when aligned with purpose, don't just look extraordinary from the outside, they feel extraordinary from the inside. Because they know, deep down, they are doing what they were born to do, remind the world what's possible. So, who are Aquarius goats? They are living paradoxes, creatures of air and earth, of thought and feeling, of movement and stillness. They live between dimensions, it seems. One foot rooted in the sensitivity of the human condition, and the other floating somewhere in the stratosphere of future dreams and cosmic questions. An Aquarius goat is the person sketching blueprints for a better society while burning sage and listening to Icelandic post-rock in a candlelit apartment. They are both wildly imaginative and deeply emotional, rational and mystical, logical and poetic. Trying to define them is like trying to catch a cloud with bare hands. But if you sit still long enough, they might let you watch them form. To know them is to know contradiction in its most beautiful form. They are the ones who dream about world peace while stressing over how to text back. Their room might be a chaotic temple of books, half-drunk tea mugs, and abstract to-do lists scribbled on napkins, and yet their minds are planning revolutions in sustainability, education, or human consciousness. They cry during animated movies but will calmly dismantle corrupt ideologies in casual conversation. They want freedom and belonging. They seek solitude and soul-deep intimacy. They ache for connection but are terrified of being truly known. And through it all, they keep moving, restless, inspired, unfinished in the most glorious way. Their way of changing the world is subtle but seismic. Don't expect them to scream into megaphones or claw their way to the top of corporate ladders. Expect them to slip between lines of a poem and change your worldview. Expect them to whisper a question that unravels your entire belief system. Expect them to create art that lingers with you for years, or develop technology that serves a deeper human need rather than shallow profit. They revolutionize quietly, through their work, through their friendships, through the small, intimate ways they choose to show up in a world that often feels too cold, too fast, too disconnected. The beauty of the Aquarius goat lies in their refusal to harden. No matter how many times they're misunderstood, no matter how many dreams don't land quite right, they remain open. Open to trying again, to feeling more, to believing in people. Their optimism is fragile but resilient. They hurt deeply but heal creatively. Even when the world doesn't get them, they continue to get the world, observing its cracks, mourning its cruelty, and still holding space for its potential. Their hearts are worn on the inside, protected by a mind that's always moving, always questioning, always creating. So if you know one, if you love one, treasure that. Learn their rhythms, respect their silence, feed their imagination, meet their eyes when they drift too far into thought, and remind them gently that they belong here, now, with you. Because an Aquarius goat isn't just another personality type, they're a rare alchemy of brilliance and softness, of dream and devotion. They are the kind of people who, by simply being who they are, remind the rest of us what it means to be fully human. And if this felt like someone was reading your soul aloud, or describing the weird, wonderful person in your life who's always halfway to Mars, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with them. There's more cosmic psychology, spiritual storytelling, and beautifully strange personality deep dives on the way. Stick around. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more meaning. And that's what the Aquarius goat was born to give.